Radio Mano Papachango.
Give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away now. I don't know why, I just like saying that. It rolls off the tongue. Give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away now. Wim Hof. Yeah. So this is why I want to buy a van, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you to those of you who contribute to the podcast through patreon.com, because your money is going toward a van. And the reason I want to buy a van is that with the van, I will have a chance to meet the people who I have on the podcast. It's a very selfish thing. If I want to frame it as bringing a service to you, the way I would frame it is saying, when I'm with the people, we have better conversations. And since the whole point of this podcast is to bring you along to listen in on these conversations, the better the conversation, the better the podcast. And that way I get to give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away now. And that is the way I will frame it as, hey, I'm doing this for you. But that's only partly true, because as I've openly and freely admitted many times, I'm also doing this for me, in that I have a chance to meet people like Wim Hof. And so when I reached out to him, by the way, if you don't know who Wim Hof is, there's a fantastic Vice profile of him. It's about 20 minutes long, I think. Just Google Vice Iceman. It's a video, fantastic introduction to who he is and what he does and why. But as you'll learn listening to this podcast, he is a guy who holds dozens, I don't even know how many, world records in endurance feats, many of which involve withstanding cold, extreme cold, for amounts of time that medical science would very confidently say is impossible for the human body. But as is so often the case, medical science is completely wrong. And Wim has shown again and again and again that he's able to do things that should be, according to this mainstream narrative, impossible. And he does them with ease. And most interestingly, he has not only repeatedly demonstrated this with his own body, but he's taught other people how to do these things, how to withstand extreme cold for, the amount of time when most doctors would say you'd be dead of hypothermia, or training the immune system to respond vigorously to pathogens that normally would make you very sick. He's essentially, I guess if we had to encapsulate what he's working on, it's showing the conscious control of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is a phrase referring to the parts of the body that are generally thought to be outside the realm of conscious control, like heartbeat, blood pressure, some people would say even brain waves, things like that. But areas like biofeedback, some hypnosis, various mind-body integration techniques are all about bringing that realm of the body back into the realm of consciousness, and therefore we're able to affect our health, affect our moods, affect our sleep patterns, affect our general mind-body condition through the mind. So it's very important work. It has implications in things like cancer treatments and things like general overall happiness, fitness, digestive disorders, so many of the things that people suffer from. And my God, the amount of suffering in the world right now is off the charts, despite all our progress, air quotes around progress, as always. Yeah, I think I read somewhere like half the people in the U.S. are on pain medication or something like that. It's just like I don't even pay attention to the numbers anymore. They're just, every time I read something, it's like, what? How can this be possible? How can there be so much suffering in, the greatest, richest country the world's ever seen? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, there is. And, just look at the opioid epidemic, the amount of people who are dying from heroin overdoses, not because they're junkies, but because they got on pain medications, because their doctors put them on pain medications, because they've got chronic back pain, or they've got chronic knee pain, or they've got chronic some other kind of pain. And instead of treating the cause of the pain, which is often your fucking life, right? And why is your life causing you pain? Well, because your life is taking place in this culture, and that culture is a bad fit for your body and your mind, and therefore you generate suffering. That's what happens. Yeah, wear the wrong size shoes. See how long that works for you. Well, we've got a culture that's the wrong fit. It's the wrong fit for our bodies, for our minds, for our spirits, and so it hurts. We develop blisters. We bleed. Yeah, I don't need to get more graphic about that. So the work that Wim is doing is incredibly important. And as I said to him, and this is not blowing smoke up anyone's ass here, I meet so many interesting people doing this podcast, and I'm so grateful for the access to them. And Wim is one of these people who I think, if there is a future for our species, people are going to look back, and he's going to be remembered as a historical figure. He's going to be remembered as someone who dedicated his life to opening up a path that leads to a future worth living in. And so I'm very grateful to have had a chance to spend some time with him. Getting back to the van, the whole point of the van is that I'm not doing these interviews by Skype, because when I first reached out to him and his son, we talked about doing the podcast, and, Wim's all over the place and I'm all over the place. So yeah, it's easy to just do it by Skype. And I said, look, honestly, I'll fly anywhere to spend a day with him. So if we can find an afternoon or a morning where he's got an hour or two, I'll get there wherever he is. And so we set it up. He was in Holland, and so I flew up to Amsterdam, and I have some other friends up there, and Wim had just flown in from Cleveland, I think, where he was at a UFC fight because he helps train a Dutch fighter who was there, and he saw Joe Rogan, of course. And anyway, Wim had just flown back, and he was jet lagged, and I had just flown back from New York. I was jet lagged, but we spent the morning at his house, had this conversation that you're about to hear. And we became friends, and I told him about Casilda and the work that she's doing, and, the sort of path that she's on. And he said, oh, my God, I'd love to meet her. She sounds great. And, I'm going to be in Spain next week. Why don't you guys come up to Huesca, where we just bought this house? And I told Cassie. She was thrilled, so we rented a car. We drove up. And that's why this podcast is late in being released. That's why I sort of have skipped a week here, because we were up hanging out with Wim and his posse at the house up there in Huesca. So, we've become buddies. That's why I want the van, because I want to meet these people. I want to know them. I want them to be friends. I want this to be my tribe, my community. And of course, as you are part of my tribe and community, we all join in this together. And as you'll hear, that's a very important part of what Wim's about, is forming community and inviting people into his life and enriching everybody's experience by doing that. So thanks for being part of the tribe, and I hope you really enjoy this conversation. Before I go on with my ranting, I thought I would play a little tune, which is a very inspirational and beautiful song called Little Gardens. And it was sent to me by a guy who listens to the podcast, Eric Vitoff, who you can check him out at soundcloud.com, Eric Vitoff, Vitoff. And he also has a YouTube channel, youtube.com/user/evsweep. I'll repeat those after the song. So listen to the song, enjoy the song, check out the words because it's pretty cool and inspirational. And thank you, Eric, for sending this. Eric really wanted me to play this song on the Wim Hof episode because he's a big fan of Wim. So you got your wish, Eric. Fuck yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Keep peace in your little gardens. Give away your pardons. It's all about forgiveness, positivity, right? At least that's how I hear the song. Beautiful song, Eric. Thank you so much for sending that to me. It just is so groovy. I just feel like, I'm gonna like rent a convertible and drive through the desert just so I can listen to that tune while the wind's blowing through my hair, kind of Hunter S. Thompson like. Okay, again, SoundCloud.com, Eric Vitoff, Vitoff, or YouTube/user/EV Sweep, or you can just Google the fucking guy, Eric Vitoff, Vitoff. The name of the album is Circuitry. It's out and available everywhere, Spotify, iTunes, etc. in October, and this is late September. So I will put the link up on my the page, where all this shit is, at chrisryanphd.com or tangentiallyspeaking.com. It takes you to the same place. All right, thanks, Eric. Now we after recording this conversation, Wim and I went over to this big barrel that he had dumped a bunch of ice into. If you follow me on social media, you see him. I posted some pictures of Wim carrying the bags of ice over this barrel and dumping them in there. And then we had this conversation, and then we went to the barrel, and I set up my recorder, but I'd already taken off my glasses, so I pushed the buttons. I thought it was recording. It turns out it wasn't. So you don't have the audio proof of me getting into the barrel of ice, unfortunately. But I did, and I sat in there for 5 minutes, or I didn't sit really, I sort of crouched. And I don't know, maybe I'm fantasizing, but I think Wim was kind of impressed that I didn't freak and jump out. And once I got past the first 20 seconds or so, I was all right. But the first 20 seconds or so, I felt kind of like this. Which is to say, I felt kind of like Screamin' Jay Hawkins at the end of the great tune, I Put a Spell on You. Check that one out if you don't know Screamin' Jay Hawkins. That's a great tune. I first heard that song in an amazing film. If you want to check out a really blow your mind independent film, check out Jim Jarmusch's Stranger Than Paradise. It's all black and white. It's unlike anything you've ever seen, and it features Screamin' Jay Hawkins singing I Put a Spell on You Because You're Mine. Kind of a voodoo love song, I guess. Anyway, the first 20 seconds, my body was going, get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here. But then once I got past that, then I was surprisingly relaxed. I was okay. And it wasn't numbness because I could feel my feet. I could feel my hands on my thighs. I could feel my legs. My body, I felt it. Everything was working. And Wim was sort of talking me through it, breathing. And then we got into a conversation. Actually, it was a very touching conversation. We talked a lot about his wife and her death and how that had motivated him and set him on the path that he's on, and how in some ways the work that he's been doing ever since in some senses lends more meaning to her death and honors her death in a way that no one could have anticipated, of course. So I regret the fact that the recorder wasn't working because that was beautiful. And although, I mean, honestly, at one point I wondered if he remembered that the recorder was there. And so I was going to have to talk to him and make sure it was okay to share that part of the conversation because I wasn't sure if he knew that it was public. So I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have shown up here anyway. But I did go into the ice, and then we went and sat in the sauna, really hot sauna, and he poured water on the hot coals, so we got a big blast of steam, and it was so hot that you sort of have to breathe very slowly so you don't burn the insides of your nose and your throat and all that. And then we went back out and got back in the ice again for another 5 minutes, and yeah, it was fantastic. And then we were up in Huesca, and Cassie and I, in honor of Wim, we were off hiking in the mountains one day, and we were by this bubbly mountain stream, super cold water, and Cassie wanted to have the Wim Hof experience. And, of course, to have the full experience, you have to do a training and learn the breathing techniques. And, it's much more than just sitting in cold water. But she got in the cold water and and it's very cold, these running streams. And she was in there at least 5 minutes and really had a very powerful experience that, I don't know, sort of seems that between the experience of meeting Wim and the insights that she gained that day, it sort of helped clarify the path she's on as well. So Wim Hof, fuck, he's a very interesting dude, and when he's around, good things happen. So I'm very grateful to have him as a friend at this point.
Hey, thanks for this book, man.
Yeah. Well,
Chris,
it's you don't have to read it.
I like it.
there are no pictures.
Come on, man.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah. All right. So I'm here with Wim Hof, sitting at a picnic table in Holland. There's a nice dog, got some coffee. It's a sunny day, and the ice is in the barrel. I don't know what's going to happen with that ice in the barrel, but is you going to put me in there? Is that the idea?
As well.
We'll go in there together?
Yes.
It's going to be intimate. All right.
Yes.
I'll be in a barrel with Wim Hof. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks for coming.
I don't want to blow smoke up your ass, but I have to say, when I talked to your son about doing this, and it was like, oh, we could do it on Skype or something, I said, fuck that. No, please, let me come to Holland. Wow. I want to meet this guy. There are very few people who are going to be remembered by history, but I think you're one of them.
Wow.
So I really wanted to
spend
some time in your presence.
Wow.
So
Most welcome.
Yeah. So it's great. It's great to be here. What were we just talking about? Sleeping in a teepee.
Yeah.
You were talking about sleep. We're talking about modernity. I've got this thing about modernity and comfort. I know a lot of what you work with is, people would say it's about discomfort, right? The extreme cold. I was staying with friends in Los Angeles recently, and they said that in their guest house, they said, oh, see what you think of this bed we just bought. It's this beautiful bed, very expensive latex technology or something. And so I went to sleep that night, and I got up the next day, I took a shower, and I went to have breakfast, and they said, what did you think of the bed? I didn't think anything, actually. I just fell asleep. So I guess that was comfortable.
Yes.
But then I thought, comfort is not just the absence of discomfort.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Comfort is a positive thing. Comfort is is pleasure.
Yes.
But I didn't really feel pleasure. I just felt the absence of displeasure.
Yes.
And I was thinking that's the mistake of the modern world, that we're always trying to filter out every slightly negative sensation.
Yeah.
And so we don't learn from it.
Yes.
And it kind of feels like your whole life is like, no, I'm learning from this, and I can use this to teach people this discomfort is full of meaning.
Yes. Don't do this at home, but what I did, I was a soul searcher, and I didn't feel comfortable.
Where's your? Oh, it's inside. Oh, I see. You're a professional. Sorry.
Yeah, man. I know the drill. The microphone. You can't see it, but it's there.
Yeah.
So, look around. They say comfort and the comfort zone and the technology, and you can make the choices and you can control nature, but you can't control nature by choice, by the mind. It's by your body and your mind together. And the body has been neglected, because if we can choose between cold and warm, we choose warm, but warm all the time.
Yeah.
Whilst the cold could be a trigger for deeper mechanisms, physiology, to be stimulated.
Yeah.
That makes us feel strong. For example, the vascular system is composed of 100,000 kilometers, about 70,000 miles inside. There are all little muscles and little reflexes. If you don't trigger it, like any muscle, then the condition lowers and becomes weak.
Yeah.
And the heart needs to pump.
It atrophies.
And yes, it atrophies, and the heart needs to compensate. So stress comes in.
Right.
And not the right blood flow comes in. Thus the immune cells don't get fed as well as they could,
right,
as they naturally are built. So discomfort or cold is actually creating a optimized optimization of comfort, strength of the whole body. And not only that, also the breathing becomes shallow if we just make by our mind, our environment and homes, and by choice, every time we begin to not only ignore a big part of our physiology in the depth, we begin to therefore breathe shallow.
Yeah.
And what happens if your oxygen is shallow for a long time? You become acidic. And where does it settle? It settles in the tissue.
Yeah.
And now they found out that probably all the autoimmune diseases, they are derived from being acidic in the tissue, which is the storage capacity. This is the first one to store up the whatever is failing, which is being acidic.
Yeah.
And the oxygen goes to the core, and the rest is, but that's a function of the body only for temporary. What we do is year after year after year after year, we get conditioned and we think we are normal beings.
Right.
And then we get sick.
Yeah.
Then we get depression. Then we get autoimmune diseases, cancer, all those things. And we don't know how to treat them.
Yeah.
Just get back to the optimization of body and mind, which means use the elements of nature time by time to trigger the deeper physiology.
Yeah.
Simple.
It is simple, and yet, as you say, there's an arrogance, right, to civilization, to modern medicine.
Yeah.
And yet what we find over and over again, there's a line I quote from T.S. Eliot, this British American poet. He says, we shall not cease our explorations, and the end of all our journeys will be to return where we began and know the place for the first time, right?
And consciously, yes.
Yeah, and you're talking about like cold, for example, in this teepee, we're talking about sleeping. We know now, just recently, research has shown that if the temperature goes down 10 or 15 degrees, you sleep better.
Yeah.
At night.
Yeah.
But this is like recent research. That's the way we've been sleeping for 100,000 years. Exactly. It's crazy. It's like we have to go back to where we came from.
Exactly.
And that's where everything makes sense. The diet. Well, we eat what our ancestors ate. That's what we're designed to eat, of course.
Yes.
The exercise patterns, the sexuality, the way we were talking about Alaska earlier, the way we interact with other people, depend and share. That's natural. Not, oh, this is mine, stay away. You know, that's we've designed this world that's completely out of sync with the kind of animal we are.
Exactly. Alienation.
Yeah.
Alienation of our physiology. By choice, by culture, by arrogance, or creating a wrong attitude, mental attitude, to where we are the masters of nature, and we got the technology, and this is culture, and this is infrastructure, this is great, this is evolution, and humans are the best predators of the world, and but then they forget themselves. They beat everything outside of them, but inside they are deplorable and they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. So we gotta wake everybody up, and the way I do it is by science, by scientific research, because nobody believes anymore.
Yeah.
God is gone, but God is still inside.
Yeah. I watched this Vice thing I mentioned earlier, the profile that they did of you. They came with you to Poland. And,
the Iceman.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
So I watched it again the other night, the preparation to come here, and there was a very moving moment. I had a beetle or something.
Yeah, so the beetle in the form, shape of a leaf.
Yeah.
Camouflage.
Yeah. But there's a very beautiful moment where I think the question was how you felt when you were in the laboratory, and you said, I think you said you cried, that you felt validated.
Yes.
Like the journey. Recognition, yeah.
After 35 years of searching and stating that we are able to do so much more than we think, we are, per definition, more than we think.
Yeah.
This connection is lost, so I always stated that, and in television shows and in challenges and records, what I did and all, and they always told me I was crazy, mocked me, cynicism and all that. And then I lost my wife in '95, which was a lot of grief, broken heart, and society just runs on, you gotta catch up all the time. I had to take care of 4 kids alone. And bring them up, and I must say I did a good job on that, but in my heart I was broken.
Yeah,
I was broken and cynicism, but I went into nature anyway, because the only way I could solace or get rid of my grief was going into, say, ice water or climbing without gear in steep rocks. And like free soloing, just nature. Nature had the answer to make me silent, to make me in tune again with myself. See, for example, zebras. Zebras, they get attacked by lions, and 10 minutes later, they graze.
Chill.
Chill.
Yeah.
Our minds, with grief, it can eat us.
Yeah.
So, and we have. We didn't came up in our schools how to take care of ourselves. So you are left alone.
Yeah.
And I had no money, and etc. But I had a lot of happiness with my kids, just being a nest.
They were young,
a little tribe.
When your wife died, they were young.
Yeah, 7 years the youngest, 12 the oldest, 4 kids, and then and that's a. But nature gave me the answer.
What were you doing? Were you working then? Or?
I worked as a gardener.
A gardener.
And as a postman.
Were you already doing the ice stuff, or that happened in response to?
I did. I did. But I intensified it, of course, because you go as deep as your grief is.
Yeah.
So you got to go deep into the brain, deep into the body.
Were you feeling, like you talked about free climbing? Was there? I can't imagine the kind of grief you were feeling then. And having the children just must have intensified everything so much.
Yes.
But were you? I mean, was there a quality of like, I don't give a fuck if I live or die? If I fall, I fall. Was there a recklessness to it?
No, absolutely not. Having 4 children gives you all the sense to go on.
So you're doing something very dangerous, but you're not.
Yeah, everybody told
danger.
Me. No. Yeah. So the danger is being attacked all the time by your own grief.
Right.
You get depressed. How are you able to function then with 4 kids?
Right.
You are not. There's so many people, suffer from these conditions, and they are not able to bring up their children.
Yeah.
Right. In happiness, strength, and health.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
That should be the way. So the answer was in the nature, and many people told me, "Hey man, that's irresponsible. You want to have them lose the father as well?" And I said, "No. Deep inside, I knew the answer is over there, and I felt it, and I always was so peaceful doing it, very calculated, intuition, instinct, everything on." And it really solved a whole lot
Yeah.
in me. Yes.
And being Dutch, I have a lot of respect for Dutch culture. I have lots of friends here. I spent a lot of time in Holland. And I remember walking one day in Amsterdam, and I was with my Dutch friend. His name's Martin van Dijvendijk, like the most Dutch name I think there is.
Martin van Dijvendijk.
Yeah, and his father is an internationally famous dike expert. So
Okay, there you got him.
Pretty Dutch. Anyway, so
And this woman, is that a dyke? But he loves dykes.
So we're walking in Amsterdam, and you know all these big windows, and the curtains are always open, so you can see people in their living rooms, living in their table. And I said to my friend Martin, like, I love how Dutch people, like, they just open their windows. It's so like relaxed and free. He said, "Oh no, man, it's not relaxed. It's that if you close your curtains, your neighbors will talk about you. They think you have secrets." And then, and I started to see this, like, I love Dutch culture. I love the tolerance. I love the intelligence and the maturity. And it seems they do things with a lot of thought. But there's also a lot of control. A lot of your neighbors. Everyone has to be happy, and so there aren't a lot of like eccentric Dutch people like you. So I'm thinking about you doing these things, and people are telling you, "Oh no, Wim, you can't do this, you can't do that," and you're like, "No, I'm doing it." Yeah, that's kind of an American thing. It's like, "Fuck it, I'm doing it."
That's it. Yeah. So I feel more akin, say, with the American mentality.
Do you? Yeah.
Yes. It's more free. You just express your soul. Your emotion, and if you fall, you stand up again. If you fall here, then you are down because you lost, and it's no good.
Right.
Because everything is structurized, well thought through, but most of it controlled.
Yeah.
And the Dutch people are, they have to be sort of more communicative and diplomatic, because it's a little tiny country.
Yeah.
So most of the people speak 3 languages.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
And that's because the big neighbors.
Right.
They speak German, English, French.
Right.
So I took that one up, the language thing, and I love it. I speak many languages, therefore, but the Dutch mentality, really, that is a big stone, and I relieved myself of it. I climbed it.
You climbed it with no shoes.
With no gear whatsoever.
Yeah. You mentioned zebras earlier. There's a great book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. It's exactly up. Yeah,
exactly.
And it's about stress. It's about that they feel acute stress, but not chronic stress.
Wow.
So it's
you
exactly
found
what
some
you
answers,
said.
man.
Yeah.
Chris?
It's good. It's a good book. Robert Sapolsky, for anyone who's listening.
I like it.
Very interesting guy.
I like it. Yeah, stress oxidates in the cell.
Yeah.
And it deregulates DNA.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Epigenetically, and then you get all the problems. Deregulation of the DNA means the gene expressions. They get, instead of red, they become green, or green instead of red.
Right.
A cancer cell needs to become red, but it becomes green because it's deregulated.
It needs to die.
It's the stress. Stress is doing that.
And it goes through generations. You're talking about epigenetics. They've shown that when a man suffers from famine, his grandchildren are more likely to be obese because of the epigenetics.
Wow.
Even if they never knew him, even if they're raised by adopted.
Amazing. I'm trying to solve all these problems now, as you do. You from your point, me from my point, and I use science for that.
Well, it's very interesting because you start with experience, and now you're moving into science.
Yes.
And I love that you shifted from just demonstrating these things again and again to teaching people.
Yes.
And that's such an essential.
And make it simple.
Yeah.
Make it simple. You came up with answers, as I see, and these books. Directly I see parallels. With the sexuality, with the way of stimulating the deeper physiology because of the elements. And what do? We have taboos over the sexuality because we twist it. We are twisted about sexuality. And we are twisted also about our way to deal with nature. There's no harmony. There's no interaction. Thus, the physiology is messed up, and it gets into the brain, and then we get these attitudes, mental attitudes, and creating stress. and it gets back into the DNA.
Yeah.
And then it gets epigenetically, and then it becomes genetically. I showed, for example, in Maastricht University, in nuclear science, and MRIs and all that,
Sure.
with a cold physiological experiment, how to combust 5 times more energy than another person with the same amount of brown fat adipose, exposed to, say, 3 hours in 10 degrees Celsius, which is what is it in Fahrenheit? It's cold.
Yeah.
It's fresh.
Yeah.
It's fresh, and then a naked body, except for shorts, be lying, just no movement, and then showing. That I was able to create 5 times more combustion in the cell activity.
You're burning 5 times more calories.
And we talked about obesity.
Yeah.
So famine, that's okay. That creates an effectivity in the body, but it also gets back into the DNA.
Yeah.
So if the grandchildren become obese, is because of that fact has set into the DNA.
Yeah.
Now we are able to tackle the same problem. Again, now we got lots of food, and but we do not know how to combust the energy.
Right.
Just get back.
Yeah, also temperature control, right? You live in a temperature-controlled environment, your body doesn't ever adapt. We're subverting all these natural mechanisms. Hypothalamus,
thermophysiological instrument, adapting all the time, but also emotion.
Yeah.
And also fear, and also trauma.
Yeah, fear.
So we don't know how to deal with the subconscious, the emotion, trauma, because we never are stimulated. That organ in our brain is never stimulated.
Yeah.
So we have no neurological pathway toward it, making us effective at will to control, to influence, and to deal with our emotions like the zebras.
Yeah.
And thus, we have grief, cannot function, we live under stress.
Yeah.
And stress comes anyway. You know, if you do cold stress, it is stress.
Yeah.
Heat stress, it is stress.
Sure.
When I learned things in the cold, I learned to deal actually with stress. So thus I learned how to deal with emotions a lot better.
Yeah.
Very well. I'm always optimistic. I love every day.
Really?
Yeah, man. And I love my wife too. You know.
She's not a dyke. I think.
No. It's a lot of energy going, man, and that's at your disposal, or it is not, or it is in conflict, and that creates a
How
stress.
old are you?
57.
57. All right, we're the same generation. Yeah. I'm 54.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. We love life.
But 57. So how long do you want to live? Do you have an idea?
Right now I'm into these DNA studies. I'm going to show that the telomere is we can influence the telomere, the cell division very well.
Yeah.
But it's a choice.
Yeah.
I live my life like I live it.
Yeah.
And to my fullest of satisfaction. For example, coming January, I want to climb Kilimanjaro, Mount Kilimanjaro, in 24 hours, barefoot.
So why barefoot?
Yeah.
Why barefoot?
Challenge.
It's a challenge.
Challenge of the mind.
Right. Are you like a barefoot runner? Are you into that whole
not
thing?
At all.
No.
All
right. So it's the challenge. So, but are the soles of your feet conditioned for that kind of thing?
No, not right now. It just came up that idea before yesterday.
So you did, but you climbed Everest. Was that barefoot?
Yes. No.
Because you need crampons.
Bare-chested and in shorts. You need crampons.
Okay. So and you didn't summit, but you were very close.
Yes.
Like what, 1,000 feet or something?
Yeah. 7,500. The death zone.
You're in the death zone. No oxygen.
No oxygen, and I didn't proceed because 3 months prior to that, I did a barefoot half marathon at -20, -30 degrees, and my left forefoot inflicted a cold injury, and it was still not really the inside, the vascular inside, the interior was yet not really healed.
Right.
So I felt at that moment, I went very fast over there, very well, but I felt my left forefoot, and I said, I might be crazy, but I'm not an idiot. I go back.
Yeah.
Not gonna mess up the vascular interior of myself.
Good. That's something people need to understand. I think when someone like you, they see people doing things that are risky. People who do things that are risky. My uncle's a pilot, and one day he said to me, I was talking about flying, and he said to me, there are careful pilots and dead pilots.
Yes. Exactly.
You want to be a pilot? Fine, but be careful.
Yes.
You want to climb Mount Everest? Fine, but when you come to that moment, you don't say, "Oh, fuck it." No.
Yeah, exactly.
Those guys don't ever climb again.
Don't mess with the hormonal system.
Yeah.
Say the day and night.
And listen to your body.
Serotonin, melatonin.
Yeah.
It's a jet lag thing, and the circadian circle. Don't mess with it.
Yeah.
Because you're a pilot, you think you are able to do that, and no, you send all the people to hell.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot. Be crazy about your job, but not an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. So how did that whole thing come about? Like you're going to go climb Mount Everest in shorts?
Just an idea. I thought Messner did it without oxygen,
Right.
and Hillary, he did it with oxygen and clothes. So I thought, no, it's now my turn. No oxygen and no clothes. Otherwise, it's no challenge.
Yeah. Did you have a Sherpa? Do you have a guy?
Yeah, but I was without, actually. When I did my attempts, I was without. Because they could not really follow.
Yeah. So,
it was too fast.
I mean, what was it like when you were at base camp? Were the other climbers like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, again, crazy.
Yeah.
And they were talking about me, all the alpinistic world, and when
did
I
you
think
do
they
this?
didn't dig it.
Was this in the 90s or when was it?
2007.
2000. Oh, so recent. It's 9 years ago.
9 years ago. Yeah, man.
Did you have a team with you, or?
Yeah, I was a team for the organization, logistics. There was a team, but not around me. Just the team.
Were you filming it, or?
They were filming it,
okay.
But when I did my attempts, I filmed it myself only.
Right. You have
So I got all the evidence and all that. It's somewhere.
Oh man! So all this stuff you've done, all these world records and the marathons, and I know part of it was challenge. You like to overcome limits and things like that.
Yes.
But was this also part of the plan to attract enough attention that then you could start to turn and get scientists interested? And then was this all thought out, or were you just doing it and it came together?
It was always my conviction. 25 years ago, I wrote my first book, and there I already stated that the autonomic nervous system and the immune system can be influenced far deeper than we think.
Right.
So that was always my conviction.
Yeah.
But nobody believed it. Everybody telling me he is crazy, he is a loner, he is eccentric.
No medical training, right?
No medical training whatsoever.
So who's going to listen to that? Yeah.
So in 2007, New York, where you just came from, in 2007, Manhasset, New York, Biochemical Institute, the Feinstein Institute, under supervision of Dr. Kevin Tracy. I did a record in New York in front of the Rubin Museum of Art.
You were sitting in the ice cube?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the other day, we went to this institute, and then there they had me hooked up with a infusion, for blood, taking blood,
right.
And the other side, lung and heart meter,
right,
to see maybe this guy is able, where nobody actually is able to influence into the vagus nerve,
the vagus nerve, right,
because it's autonomic nervous system, etc. It's outside of our will. We cannot influence.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy, because he is so eccentric, let's test him.
Yeah.
And a week later, I got a phone call of Dr. Ken Kamler, who is an authority in the extremes. He is also the author of Going Into the Extremes. He's doing the Mount Everest expeditions of America. He was there also with the Krakauer expedition.
Right, into thin air. Yeah,
yes, he was there, and he is a friend of mine now. But then he told me, when he saw the results, he told me, if you are able to reproduce this with a group of persons, then that could mean huge consequences for human mankind.
Right.
Because you have influenced deeply into the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is responsible for so many grief and autoimmune diseases. So if you are able to reproduce this in a comparative study, then and I said yes, of course. But a month later, I did not hear anything anymore. Radio silence. That was 2007. Then 2010, I came. I went to do a performance here in one of the biggest theater in the Netherlands, together with Professor Hopman, cold physiologist of the Radboud University in Nijmegen, and she asked me before the actual act to go in, stand in eyes, and to show people. We can do more than we think. That was the theme of that performance, of that theater piece. More people were, people with extravagant ideas came up and with projects and all that. And I was to stay in the eyes like for 80 minutes. So the professor, before that, the university hospital, asked me if I would like to be, or invited me to be a subject in a cold physiological experiment. I said yes, of course, because they heard about my stories, about my states, about my conviction, and this is not possible, but let's test it. So they tested me, and they found out that in 80 minutes, my core body temperature did not only drop, it went up. And they took my blood, 80 minutes, full immersion of ice. They take my blood and they exposed ex vivo in laboratory setting to that blood E. coli bacteria.
Right.
And they had zero inflammation, zero reaction, no reaction whatsoever. And so then another professor came to me, immunologist, a very famous one in the scientific world, Mihai Nitea, and he asked me if I could be subjected into an experiment with an E. coli bacteria, vivo, so direct. And I said, of course, yes. And I did it, and I showed to suppress whatever is causing the E. coli bacteria on the immune system, which is a fever, uncontrolled shivering, headaches, all over agony. I was able to have no symptoms at all, and to show in the blood to suppress the inflammatory reaction of the immune system. Whoom. And then they said, but okay, you do it. You have shown that you are able to tap into the autonomic nervous system. But that's you, and you're an eccentric. You are so well trained. You are an exception that confirms actually the rule, because you are NS1. So I told them, let me train 20 people. And how much days do you need to get a little bit close to your results? A year? You 1.5 years? 10 days.
Had you trained people before at this point?
No.
So how did you know that you could do it?
Just a hunch.
Just a hunch.
Same thing with climbing. It's a hunch. You feel you can do it. You make the calculation psychically.
But you can do it. I mean, you couldn't. How could you look at me and say, "Oh, he can do this"?
But the thing is, I trained it. I know that it came all from the scratch. And I got a twin brother, identical twin brother.
Oh, you have a twin brother.
Who is not able to do that. Lack of training. So I trained these 20 people in 4 days to withstand, without prior experience in the cold, to go for 5 hours from -10 to -27 degrees
Celsius.
and feel great.
Yeah.
And then I knew these guys are ready in 4 days.
Yeah.
Not 10 days, it only took 4 days.
Yeah.
So they were exposed as well to the E. coli bacteria, same experiment, and they all showed influencing deeply into the autonomic nervous system, the immune system, and the endocrine systems. Right now, it is, and then we published in the PLOS, the PNS, and later Nature, and now there's a full chapter in the American university books. So about the Iceman. No, it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's just the title. It's about the endocrine systems, immune systems of, say, everybody.
Of everybody. You know, I grew up, well, you talked about teepees, and I grew up, it's hard to explain. I believed that I was an American Indian who was somehow born in the wrong body.
I love the Indians too, always.
Yeah. And one of the things that I learned very early was that the Indians, one of the things that they did was withstanding discomfort without complaining. And at the time, you know, you read it and you say, they were tough. But as I got older, I started to think it's not that they were tough, it's that they were in alignment with the world.
Harmony.
And it gets cold. And
harmony with nature.
You deal with cold. Exactly. They were animals. Wolves don't complain about the cold, right?
Amazing.
And so they're... hunter-gatherers were wild animals, and now we're dogs. And dogs complain when the heater goes off. Or,
they get cancer as well, and all these strange things.
Right. So it's not that they were macho and repressing. It's that they were in alignment somehow.
Yes.
So when it got cold, when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I would just like not put on a jacket. I would just like, okay, it's cold, I'll adjust. And I slept on the floor because I didn't want to get used to a bed. And my parents thought I was crazy. I slept in the yard in my teepee and all this. So
Typical.
So one summer, I mean, I wore a loincloth at home. You know, I'd take off all my clothes and put on my loincloth, and you know. Anyway, the one summer, I think I was 14, and my parents said you should get a job for the summer. You know, like pumping gas or whatever. And I wanted to be a psychologist. So I looked in the phone book, I found psychologists, and I called all the psychologists. I said, I'm 14, I need a job, is there anything, whatever? And they all said, no. And then one man said, well, I don't know, I can't give you a job, but why don't you come and spend a day with me? He was a really nice guy. So I went to this place, and it was a place for treating addictions. And it was a big hospital, like on a hill. And
amazing.
And what he did was, my mother came and met him, and then, you know, she left me for the day. But what this guy did was biofeedback. And I remember he had an electric train, and he put the electrodes on my head.
Wow.
And he said, when you create alpha waves, the train will move. And just try to be calm and try to focus your mind. And I did, and the train started to move. Wow. And then it stopped because I was like, oh, what's that? Yeah. And by the end of an hour or something, I could just make the train. It just moved all around the tracks.
Amazing.
And then he said, wow, that's very unusual that you can do this so quickly. And then he put temperature sensors on the backs of my hands, and there were like these digital readouts. And he said, okay, try to make the left one get colder and the right one get hotter, and I could do it. And he said, wow, this is very strange. You can do this without training. Yeah. And it's because of this Indian stuff, you know?
Yes.
So it's funny talking to you now. It's like closing this big circle in my life.
Right.
I've always felt this, like we can control our bodies with our minds.
Yes. I showed in New York to increase temperature with infrared camera within a minute.
Yeah.
With 10 degrees.
10 degrees, wow. Yeah. And heart rate. All these things that they say, no, you can't control this. Of course we control it. We control it all the time.
Exactly. See the importance and the gravity of this all. And also talking about, say, spirituality.
Yeah.
Should be just being struck in harmony with nature.
Yeah.
It's happening every day, and we lost the wandering of it all. But besides of that, the adaptation and the being able to tolerate cold and heat and so-called discomfort, that we got to bring this back because it is able to tackle, not only disease to heal better, but it's stimulating deeply the immune system and brings about the right brain, neurological pathway to learn to control the immune system, endocrine system, about mood and mood disorders. Right. We are all very capable of doing that. Yeah. And now we are saying, depression is normal, cancer is normal, autoimmune disease is always normal. Yeah. Take these pills, take these pills, take these pills. They never will make the solution. They just suppress what is acting as a signal. We suppress it and we don't take away the cause. So the cause and the gravity of going possibly at will into the cause, it's there, and the gravity of it is now spoken over, and we have to be very consequent in this on this point, that it is so simple, and now we do the science around it, so there is no speculation about it. Yeah, we gotta go back and live in harmony with nature, because our bodies are built that way. So we got a great brain. We are 50 years ago. All NASA control chamber, the big rocket to the moon, the Apollo, great achievement. But it's now in an iPhone, the same bytes. Yeah. And even more in an iPhone. I mean, that's our brain. Our brain has evolved so much, but our body has been ignored. And spirit. And now we have to bring this brain together again, align with the body, with the functioning of all the mechanisms, and create this new neurological pathway. And that's what we do with Stanford University right now. They are installing a lab to test and research this method, which is actually what we are talking about, but very consequent. I sublimized it into the Wim Hof method, and my son has made the window, and now everybody is interested because it is scientifically endorsed, etc. And we got a whole lot more. So, but we gotta stress on this point to show the gravity of it, which is enormous. The connection between the mind and the body, and being able to create a new neurological pathway, say in 8 weeks, into the brainstem, from the surface of our brain, the neocortex, and our thinking brain and all the daily matters brain and all that, into that part which is primordial, which is the emotion, which is the trauma, which is the fear, which is the PTSD, the hormonal system, the control chamber of ours, which is the primitive brain, the brainstem. And so we are into that and showing that. So the gravity of your coming, this book, what you do and mine, needs to be stressed. This is now we use stress. Just stress this point, and that's you got this point already figured out. But the whole world is suffering because of the stress and having no way to control this stress, because they always evade stimulation or certain stress and come up with a neurophysiological pathway in the brain, being able to directly act upon it. It's not trained, it's a muscle not trained, it's a pathway not trained, the pattern is not there. So we are into that, and that will bring back the ability to intervene, to influence, to control our mood, our fear, trauma, emotion, all those things, depression, inflammation, same thing. It's when we have learned and showed in the hospital, people lying in bed doing this method to create being sort of high of breathing exercises and focus, to produce more adrenaline, that's control over the stress hormone, more adrenaline being high than somebody in fear for the first time going into a bungee jump.
Right.
So all this, we are able to control that.
Yeah.
And that's what the world needs. And that brings about the right techniques, and they should be in the schooling system, showing that everybody is from young, not to be alienated through the system, and mathematics are very important, and language and history. No, happiness too, and strength too, and health too.
And
they
every
are very
year it's less physical training in schools, more sit.
Yeah.
Do you work with children? Do you do training with children?
I train with children.
That must be great, because to have someone who's already domesticated, like me, who's like already got the bad habits, but kids are wild animals. They're great. So to tap into that.
They, what I do a lot with kids, they love the cold. They love, challenge their bodies and stimulate it and go deeper. They're like on drugs, but natural drugs, And they like tree climbing. Yeah. That's what I do with them. And then they do a lot of these groups, and it always shows that after doing it all, they are serene. Yeah. They don't need to go to McDonald's or this or compensation, or they are just sitting together like a little tribe. Yeah. Very peaceful, very serene. Yeah. And we should bring that back to, and that's the point. I want to show scientifically that we are able to tap into the hormonal system, immune systems, anytime we want, thus creating health. That means controlling the immune system in any layer. We have shown that. Happiness, what is that? Serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, oxytocin. That's a hormonal system. We tapped into the hormonal system deeply. Strength, what is that? Cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine, and control it. That's what we have shown. Right. So then the mother is able, and the school should too, show that we are all able to tap into these systems of ours, these primordial, already existent systems, and they need to be stimulated. Because of our behavior, it becomes shallow. And this is the way we get into the depth and get back in connection with those systems, and we are built to stay healthy, strong, and happy. Yeah, of course. And if every mother is able to guarantee that to his son or a daughter, then there is not so much grieving for going for a position in society and stress them up and more and notes and marks and this, and they're not being happy. No, and then the health, where is it? 20 years later, depressed, autoimmune disease, and nobody knows. Now we know now.
Do you ever think about the I'm sure you do. You were talking earlier about we don't address the very obvious core of the problem. We're always treating symptoms and suppressing. You have a fever, take this and it'll cut your fever. Well, your body wants the fever because it's using the fever.
It's a signal.
It's a signal, right? You have pain. Oh, take a pain pill. No, feel the pain, experience the pain. What is the pain telling you? And that's, I think about that in so many levels, like foreign policy. Oh, people are blowing themselves up to kill us in Paris and New York. Oh, well, let's go blow them up. No, why are they doing this? Why? What is the unhappiness? What is the anger? What is the injustice? Exactly. People don't blow themselves up for the fuck of it.
Yes, exactly. What do you think what a mother wants? Here and past the border. Isn't it just happiness, strength, and health for the kids?
Exactly.
That's it.
Right.
We are all the same.
Justice.
We are, and that's it. And why do we care? Because of this system of power everywhere. We get lack of money, and we get confused. We are controlled, but in the end, it's all very simple. That's why I go by science. We should bring back the belief to become happy, strong, and healthy. And this time I use science to back me up. And thus tackle any industry who maintains disease, actually. Because in the end, we are clients for an industry, food industry. They are messing up the chemistry of the food, and we are not built to deal with that chemistry. Processed food. Yeah, what is that? That's ridiculous. Well, we don't know anymore because we are confused. We are so made dependent and controlled. So awakening therein is bringing like podcasts like this. But I think science. I will show it. I already showed it first time in scientific history 2 years ago. Autonomic nervous system no longer autonomic. And that brings us, hey, what happens then with the body? And nobody is really interested. It takes time because there's no money involved.
That's it.
It's all about the power and the money, and it's ridiculous because you cannot buy happiness, strength, and health. You got it, and you got to live it. And we got to go back to become in harmony with nature, like these stupid natives. They are
the stupid natives who never want to join civilization. It's so confusing. We say, look, we teach you to farm, and they say, farm? Why should we farm? No, thank you. You people work so hard. We don't want to work that hard. This is what this book I just finished is about. Is like all these first contact things. Let us teach you.
What was the title again?
Civilized to Death.
Civilized to Death. That's a fucking war. Man.
Well, here's the big insight I had in this when I was writing this book. Right, I wanted to explain, like, okay, why is civilization so powerful? If the first part of the book is showing that nobody wants to join. They have to be forced to join, right? Other native people. They never want to join. They never say, oh, let us come and join your... No. It's always the civilized people who run away to live with the Indians. There are hundreds of cases of this in colonial America, of even Benjamin Franklin wrote, like anyone who goes and lives with the Indians, they never want to come back. It's a problem. They had to set up laws that you weren't allowed to go live with the Indians because they knew you would never come back. Even women who were captured by Indians, taken to live with them, killed the husband and the family, whatever. The woman lived with them a couple of years. Then the whites would go and fight and take the women back. As soon as they could, the women would sneak away to go back to live with the Indians because life was so much better. So anyway, the first part is like, okay, civilization is not so great as you've been told. This is a propaganda. The primitive life is not as bad as you've been told. That's propaganda. So then the second part is then why is it so powerful if it's so bad, right?
Exactly.
So I looked at like, okay, if civilization is like a Ponzi scheme, right? Where like someone's getting, the 1% are getting really rich and the rest of it. But then I looked at the research on what you're talking about, happiness and rich people. Rich people are no happier than anyone else.
Exactly.
So then I was like, well, wait a minute. If the winners are losing and the losers are losing, then who's winning? Who's the casino here? Right? You and I are playing poker and we're both losing. The casino's making money. Who's the casino?
Exactly.
So that got me to thinking about superorganisms. Superorganism is like, the ant isn't the organism, it's the ant hill, the colony, right? The bee is not really, it's the beehive. And so then I started looking into swarming behavior and all this kind of stuff. And I'm saving most of that for the next book. But I think this is what happened. The humans, there's a grasshopper, grasshoppers, right? So in northern Africa, there's this species of grasshopper that it's very peaceful. They live spread out, and so there rains and there's lots of grass. So then the grasshoppers reproduce, and the population is very high. Then the rains stop, and the grass starts to diminish, and the population gets more and more tightly compacted, and it reaches a point where there's an epigenetic trigger, and they turn into locusts, and they start to swarm. And then their behavior changes. Their back legs get long, the front legs get short, the head changes, the coloring changes in an individual, not over generations. In one individual, they become a different organism, but with the same DNA. And they become cannibalistic. They attack each other, they eat each other, they get desperate, they start to swarm, and this is the biblical plague of locusts, right? So I think that's what happened with human beings. There got too many of us, packed too tightly together, and we flipped into a different organism.
Wow, yeah. That, absolutely, it's narrowing down to that point.
Yeah.
We keep on this way.
And what you're doing and what I'm doing is, I think in our own ways, we're both saying, let's go back to the grasshopper.
Yeah.
It's still in us. We still have that DNA. We still have this ability to relate with our bodies and relate with each other.
Interesting.
The way we used to. That's the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
You know?
It is.
Now we need to go back with...
Yeah. Well, we need to go back, or we need to make the next step in the evolution.
I think the next step forward is the step back. So I'm not saying go back to, with the spearheads.
It's like
solar panels.
with a gear.
Yeah.
Manual gear.
Yeah.
First, you got to retrieve to be able to go faster.
Yeah.
To get it in a different gear.
Right.
And to retrieve herein is becoming conscious that we are that happiness, strength, and health actually is within our dominion, that we are able to control not only the autonomic nervous system, we can do that consciously.
Yeah.
And therefore enabling us to not get our eyes too much. What's the most valuable in life? That's health, strength, and happiness.
And it's our natural state.
As you said, rich people, everybody loses.
Yeah.
So let's win.
Yeah.
And when everybody is winning, that means happiness, strength, and health begin to rule, then this power thing is going to go away because it's obsolete.
Yeah.
You don't need to compensate with 6 cars if you are happy with whatever you got.
Yeah.
Because you're happy already.
Yeah. I always say a watch tells the time, a Rolex tells me you're insecure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, do you have a spiritual practice? Do you meditate, or were you raised in a religious?
No, this to me
this
right
is your
now is a spiritual talk.
Yeah.
This is a contemplation into the depth.
Yeah.
This common sense is able to relate to whatever is God and existence and divine forces, vital force, the miracle itself. It's right here, right now.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah. So, okay, we're talking about immune response and protecting oneself against pathogens and all that. What about psychologically? You're now becoming very famous. My friend Martin this morning, we were talking, I showed him your webpage and things, and he said, this guy Wim Hof, if he were in America, he'd be a superstar. In Holland, a lot of people don't know who he is because that's Holland. It's small. And how are you psychologically? Because you seem like a very humble, relaxed guy, but you're historical. You're a very unique person. You have a very important...
Nice of you to say that.
Well, but I say it because I don't think you give a shit.
Not really.
Which is good.
We are like brothers.
Yeah.
You did the same as I intuitively, because we felt nature.
Yeah.
And the harmony and all that. And I persisted therein, and I came across in my life all kinds of things, emotional things and matters, and it made me go even deeper and use it more consequent and more conscious, because I had to.
Yeah.
So now I'm teaching a teacher. My mission is to bring it to science.
Yeah.
My mission is not to be famous.
Right.
Absolutely not. Be humble, because the smaller you are, the more you can grasp of this miracle.
Yeah.
And you feel it, and it's nice. It's like is a little anecdote. The emperor went to Lao Tse. He was working in the land, and he said, "You can have this protectorate because I heard about you, etc. And then you have this protectorate. I'm the emperor, and you do." I said, "Okay, thank you very much, but if I do that, then I submit to you.
Yeah.
I get that big land, and now I got everything."
Right.
This humbleness is able to understand that for that you don't need this land and more and more and more. This is a confusion.
Yeah.
and not Confucianism or whatever.
Confusion, not Confucius.
No, I just want to be simple and go really back to my simpleness.
Yeah.
The thing I stress until it's done is the science. I want to take away unnecessary suffering, which is PTSD, fear, trauma, depression.
Yeah.
We already conducted and completed new studies on inflammation and pain, and they show spectacular results. So it's taken away pain, inflammation. Inflammation is almost everything. It all begins to inflammate because it's deregulated in the body, and then it comes out in the liver or the pancreas or wherever, in the brain, causing depression. They all see it now. But we did these studies, and very soon I'm going to show this with people who are, say, depressed for, say, 20 years. I think we can get them out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And if I do exercise with them within 10 minutes, I can bring them back into their brain and show them that they are able to have this sense of control, which is natural, eh?
Yeah.
But they forgot about it.
Yeah.
They alienated from it, and so it's gone. And I just bring it back. And then to create a new neurological pathway that enables them to do it anytime, anywhere in this society, a stressful society. I think it takes about 8 weeks to show it in the brain by MRI, fMRI, spectrography, brain imaging, blood, biochemically, and psychologically.
Do you think of yourself as a shaman?
A shaman?
Yeah.
Shaman, yeah, man. Yeah, right, man. A healer.
A healer,
a sort of a healer. And becoming holy is simply be part of the miracle.
Yeah.
Then you're one with the holiness.
Right.
That makes you holy. If you alienate, then logically you become a part of something. It's confused. It's not fused. It's confused.
Yeah.
And then inside, psychosomatically, etc. So I make people fuse again, tune their bodies, tune their minds, bring back the belief that we are actually built to become happy, strong, and healthy. And you know what? A very interesting point. If you are too much dealing with dominant parts in the brain, like neocortex, the stressful sympathetic nervous system all the time, never have really peace, limbic system, primitive brain, then not only a little part of the brain instead of the whole is working, or partially, neocortex dominating, it creates 25% less blood flow in the rest of the brain. Thus, it's not only a wrong chemistry generating therefrom, it doesn't work as well, the other parts of the brain.
Right.
Thus, the gamma resonance, which is peace and bliss and all that, is not possible to happen because that's the whole of the brain.
Balance.
Not only the whole of the brain, and I will show that when the whole of the brain is working, the gamma, which we already showed in brainwave studies with NASA equipment, then you can talk about expanding consciousness.
Right.
Because expanding consciousness is something else than our perception. And perception relies on our neural activity connecting to each other. There's not only a brain, it's associating.
Yeah.
And when it grows and associates, and your perception becomes different. That's expanding consciousness.
Right.
That's spirituality.
Right.
That's the way. But if it is blocked, if it is dominated here or there, then it's not able to be full, and then it doesn't connect. It has to deal with the imbalance.
As you're talking, it occurs to me that my feeling is that so much of what you're teaching and what you've discovered is something that we have lost.
Yeah.
And that our ancestors knew all this. We talked about the American Indians and responding to.
Yes.
But I kind of feel spiritually it's the same. When someone's hunting in a jungle that they grew up in, they know the jungle, they smell, they feel, they hear everything. They're
much more brain activity.
Exactly. It's their consciousness is out in the jungle. Right. And so when they're hunting, they're calling the animal to them. The animals are coming and sacrificing themselves, and there's a respect and a beauty. And we've lost so much.
Yes.
And what you're pulling out are things that are buried deep inside us, but that we've had them forever.
Yes.
And they've been obscured and lost.
Yes.
Have you ever spent time with hunter-gatherer people? Have you had an opportunity to be with in the Amazon or in Africa with people who are living in old ways?
I think I did it on my own.
Yeah? You just wandered into...
and like not eating a month.
Ah, okay.
You know, testing myself.
Right.
And,
but you've never been with like...
Just feeling.
Because it would be so interesting for you to go with an anthropologist or something and to be with people who sort of still know these things.
Yes,
you know?
yes. I think my time now comes to get into that. But the thing is, with the Western mind, is that it evolved so fast after the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
We got confused.
Yeah.
It's too much. It disconnected itself from its natural abilities and mechanisms in the depth.
Right.
So now it's our job to bring the connection back.
Yeah.
If we are doing that, then we got this powerful Western aggressive mind.
Yeah.
Getting back into happiness, making sense again.
Yeah.
So I go to science, and from science to sense, and from there probably I go and I just last week had Brazilian TV, here Global TV, and next one they will invite me and we make a documentary with the shaman.
Ah, good.
As you
so
said.
There you go. It's coming.
It was already there, and it's happening. So I think we got an ancient wisdom which needs to be found, and this box needs to be opened and to show everybody we all got these robins, these diamonds of the life, and it's for everybody. It's plenty.
There's plenty. That's the thing. Do you go like talking about expanding consciousness? Do you have any relationship with hallucinogens, with mushrooms or ayahuasca or any of that?
When I was in my 20s, I experimented. I experimented, yes, and, but not regular use. Just really experimenting to see about the spirituality and all that.
Yeah.
And now I'm into this discussion together with, Rick Strassman.
Sure.
Last year, and John Chavez and some others, and to make a documentary on DMT.
Yeah.
And DMT, dimethyltryptamine, is the thing that releases our emotions and brings us in a different reality than our conditioning, which is just part of our being.
That's it.
We lost it.
It's so reminiscent. It's in my experience, the first time I had mushrooms, I was like, I'm back here. Like this, I know this place.
Yeah.
You know, this is home. Like that other thing is an illusion, but this is the reality here.
Exactly. So now I want to show that DMT, we are able to get this releasing hormone for our emotions, trauma, fear, etc., and fear of death as well.
Yeah.
All that we all have the natural capability to awaken this within ourselves and have a great time.
Yeah. That's it, man.
And show it scientifically.
Yeah.
That's what I'm into now.
Yeah. Pause this and go sit in the ice or something?
Shall we do that?
Yeah.
Let's go back to our ancestors.
We've done enough talking.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Thank you to everybody who supports the podcast through patreon.com. You can decide how much you want to give the podcast, $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, or you can get completely crazy and give $20 a month or more. Or you can give nothing. If you don't have any cash, don't worry about it. Just enjoy the podcast and tell your friends. The other way you can support the podcast is if you buy shit through amazon.com or you know someone who does. does, please direct them through the link on my page, chrisryanphd.com. You click on that baby once, bookmark the landing page on Amazon, and then 8 to 10% of whatever you spend will come to support the podcast at no extra cost to you or your loved ones. Thank you to Basin and Range for that opening music at the beginning of the podcast. Very funky little tune there called The Bright Side of the Sun, I believe. You can find out more about them at basinandrangeband.com. If you want to talk about the podcast with other listeners, a good place to do that is on Reddit. Just search Tangentially Speaking, all one word. There's a community of a couple hundred people in there chatting about the episodes. I drop in occasionally and say hello, answer questions, whatever. Thanks to Shore Design T-shirts. Our garage is full of them. My mom has them all organized as only she can. Julie, thank you to Julie, my mom. She'll send those T-shirts out to you if you order them. Everything we've got in stock is from Shore Design T-shirts in Thailand, and you can check out their webpage as well for other designs. Thank you to Carsey Blanton. You can find out more about Carsey Blanton at carsey.com, CARSIEBLANTON.com. She wrote and performed the song you're about to hear, which is called Smoke Alarm, and it's a reminder to carpe fucking diem while you still can, because, ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna die one day. Here's to you, Bennett.